Today on Locked On Rockies, well, they were down big, 6 in fact, 5 technically, but the Rockies come back, and you know what the big difference was? Quality at bats.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 26th day of April in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here is talk Rockies baseball each and every day. Free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, as well as on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can let me know what's on your mind. You can fire up your Rockies hot takes with the rest of the Locked On Rockies fans. Really appreciate all of you for tuning in and joining us here each and every day on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel and on your favorite streaming services. Really do appreciate that. Really appreciate you making us your first listen of the day. Today, we're going to talk about the Rockies and their big win against San Diego yesterday, and the game that looked like it was going to be another one of those ones where you roll your eyes and get really upset and frustrated at the state of the Rockies. And then late, backs up against the wall. They put up a 6-run eighth inning and go on to win by 1. And we'll talk about what worked for the Rockies, what got away from them a little bit. But and we'll also talk about heading into the weekend, a big series here coming up in the Mexico City series, which will be really interesting as well. And my question for everyone before we get to that is, who had the Rockies and Astros tied when it comes to record here at this point in the season? Really, at any point of the season, I certainly didn't. You think of all the struggles, you think of all the issues with the Rockies, and then you think about being in the Astros position, a team that has been making the ALCS for every year for years at this point, constant playoff team, constant World Series threat. And they have the same amount of wins as the Rockies. Both the Rockies and the Astros are at 7-19 on the season. And as much as we've been bummed out and worried, I wonder how it's going over there in Houston right now as well. We'll dive into all of that and more today. Before we dive into everything, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150. Win or lose, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Rockies do pull off the victory yesterday, 10-9. They were down, I believe it was 6-2 at some point there. And then the Padres add on late, making it a 6-4 ball game. Let me double check that I'm doing my math. Yep, 6-4 ball game heading into the 7th. And then the Padres play 2 more on a Jurickson Profar home run that had to have felt real good for him. I mean, I am a total fan of, if you have an opportunity to do something against your team, your former team, and I know Profar's time in a Rockies uniform was short, but still, he was a frustrating year, I think, for him performance-wise. He looked at the dugout on purpose when he launched that bat. But, the Rockies get the last laugh. I thought that was something that was really interesting as well, because, it's just one of those reminders that players don't forget. You know what I mean? Players don't forget. They have they have long memories, especially when it comes to that stuff. But here's the big deal. Here's the difference maker. The Rockies still strike out 9 times in that game yesterday. Strikeouts still a problem, a massive problem for the Rockies. But they got 14 hits in that game. Not only did they get 14 hits in that game, they walked 5 times. And they walked 5 times in crucial and critical situations, especially when you're going up against Wandy Peralta and Matsui. That bullpen there for the Padres was not sharp. Every in the back half, or the final 2 innings of the game, 2 2/3 inning technically, for the Padres bullpen, they gave up 6 runs. They walked 3 people while striking out 3. So I mean, when you're taking those good at bats, when you're taking those quality at bats, when you're, as we saw so many times for the Rockies, there was a lot of really good takes for the Rockies on close pitches. You have to be confident in taking those pitches, especially when you're seeing things that are a little shaky. That's how you can help activate the Coors Field part of this. That's how you can activate feeling comfortable. And that's how you can get to the guys in your lineup that have been great. I mean, there's nothing, no way around it to sit there and say that Ezequiel Tovar has not been incredible, mixed with the fact that I love this new 1-2 punch. I saw this yesterday in the lineup, and Doyle and Tovar, and you might have to mix it up, but we saw how effective that can be yesterday with Brenton Doyle and Ezequiel Tovar. Your two hot young hitters are doing big things, and then what happens when Brenton Doyle gets on base? Stealing bases. What we saw in the Rockies comeback that's the potential. That's when we've talked about the Rockies and what they can do, what the possibilities of them doing of what they can do. It's right there. And yes, Hunter Goodman's home run, massive shot. Montero, massive home runs. We can't underestimate the fact that the Rockies were leaving the yard yesterday in addition to hitting extra base hits, but it starts with the quality of the at-bats and getting those walks, getting on base, because there are a lot of times early in that game, the Rockies were threatening. The Rockies had base runners on in this game, but were failing to capitalize on it. But when you start seeing that the bullpen is weak, that they're giving up those walks late at Coors Field are either a blessing or the literal bane of your existence. They will cost you games. The walks cost the Padres. The Padres were able to navigate and deal with these things, but when the Rockies were able to get extra runners on, especially from the walks, that's when they were able to do their damage. The fact that Tovar and Doyle pick up a couple of walks while also getting multiple hits there, there are threads there from this game that if the Rockies can build off of that, they will get into a better spot. The Rockies this was the first series the Rockies haven't lost. This was easily, you could argue, the best series the Rockies played this season, even though they've only split it. But when you look at things at the way that they came alive and the way they played in this series, that's pretty good. I mean, it still doesn't make up for the fact that this team was mostly quiet on offense at home. But in the 2 wins for the Rockies, as they have continued to do during their 7 wins this year, they win big. They put up a lot of numbers. The tacos for wins still continues for the Rockies here. So it's just a matter of having that offense come alive consistently. It's a matter of being able to do that game in and game out. And I was just really impressed with the confidence the Rockies were having in taking the pitches. I thought it was something that really showed that they were quality. And even though the Rockies fall behind at a certain point there at the top of the third, it's a 4-1 ball game at the end before the Rockies plate 3 to tie up the ball game there in the bottom of the third. You kind of had the feeling of it being a Coors game, and the Padres don't usually benefit from those types of games. That game yesterday that's how the Rockies should handle Coors Field. If you're giving the Rockies opportunities like getting players on base via the walk, then you got to make them punished with a home run. You got to make them punished with just getting the ball in play, and not just going down on 3 pitches. What the big difference was yesterday in the big rally, the big moments, is when you have the runners on, you're not just going down on 3 pitches. You're not just going down on 3 strikes. The Rockies not only getting the hits, but productive outs, productive at bats, able to chip away at this at the ball game. Mixed in with the fact that there's these young guys are really feeling themselves and really showing that they have some really great abilities. I mean, you can't sit there and deny the fact that Brenton Doyle looks like a completely different person when it comes to offense this year. I mean, that is the elite potential of Brenton Doyle was on display in this game. If he can get multiple hits, and then in those multiple hits, he's a factor on the base paths, That's exactly what the Rockies are looking for. Exactly what the Rockies are looking for when it comes to the development of him. I mean, there's an argument to be made that there is nobody more exciting right now on the Rockies than Brenton Doyle. If this offense is consistent and carries throughout the rest of the season, there's an argument to be made that he will be the Rockies' best player. I mean, it's still too early, but with his elite level defense mixed in with the fact that he's now been one of the best offensive pieces on this team and is now batting second in this lineup, that's massive news for this Rockies team. And his swing looks great. Everything he's doing at the dish really looks like he's more comfortable and more confident as an offensive player. And the Rockies benefit too from the Padres not playing perfect ball. The Padres Padred yesterday, as host of Locked On Padres, Javi Reyes said, and instead of the Rockies rockying, which was great. So there's threads there, right? There's elements here. But the biggest question as we continue to bring this up with the Rockies is sustained success, consistency, repeat actions. Can the Rockies replicate this? We'll talk about that and more coming up here in today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes DoorDash. DoorDash has got you covered for Mother's Day. And if you want to make mom smile, start Mother's Day with flowers or surprise her with gifts from the brands she loves, delivered the very same day with DoorDash. Does mom have a sweet tooth? Is she a tech enthusiast, a beauty connoisseur, or is she outdoorsy? No matter what she's into, you can make her smile with a fruit or flower bouquet, makeup, tech gear, workout gear, and more. Shop with savings that would make her proud. With a Dash Pass membership, you will save with a $0 delivery fee and reduced service fees on eligible orders from Dash Pass merchants that meet the minimum subtotal. Other fees, including service fee, do apply. You can check out those terms as well. Get your Mother's Day gifts all in one place and get 50% off your next order up to $15 when you spend $15 on your next flower, convenience, grocery, retail order. Now with code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB. Order using DoorDash today. Terms do apply. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, you're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here is talk Rockies baseball each and every day. Your support on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel is much appreciated. Just like Tracy635, McMahon, Tovar, Doyle, Blackman, and Inpart Diaz are the only consistent hitters right now. Time to replace Bam Bam as hitting coach. Rockies hitters look completely overwhelmed. Our young hitters need a solid hitting approach, and I lay that on Hensley Mullins. That's from yesterday's episode. We were talking about how the Rockies offense was pressing too much. And this was a prime example of a game where the Rockies made the adjustments of the things that were an issue. I mean, they still struck out, and there were still issues, especially in the beginning of this game. But the Rockies were able to keep the pulse, keep things going at least a little bit. They score one in the first, finally take the lead. They tie it up. The Padres tied up in the second, and the Rockies fall behind 4-1 at that point. Rockies bounce back, tie the game up. Then gets a little dicey from the fourth through the seventh there, with the Padres scoring 2 runs in that time and the Rockies being shut out. But the Rockies were able to, still get hits, still generate some stuff, and get to this and get to the bullpen a little bit more as well, because Randy Vasquez only made it 2 2/3. Yanni Brito made it only 2 1/3. And after the game was at its lowest point for the Rockies when De Los Santos came in and struck out 4 straight people, and then Matsui comes up and gets a strikeout, because man, the Rockies, they had those opportunities in those middle innings, but we'd be focusing on this sequence of events if the Rockies didn't do it. You can't have runners in scoring position with no outs like the Rockies did in multiple times and then strike out in 3 straight bats. That just simply cannot happen. Like, I understand that dude's piping gas. I understand that his whole thing is throwing heat right on the hands. I get that. But professional hitters, right? We're talking about professional ball players here in a situation which they got to score. They gotta score, and getting blown away on I think it was only like 10 pitches or something like that. Getting blown away like they did in that moment just can't happen. You know, that's what happens. That's when the Rockies are really truly at their worst, is when they are doing something like that. You know, yeah, that type of stuff is such a momentum killer. But to see the Rockies still bounce back after that, pretty big. I mean, pretty crucial there for this team to be able to stick with it and go after it there. I still obviously, of course, worry about striking out 5 times in a row, and the fact that this team did still strike out nearly double-digit times again. But I mean, it's crazy when you think about it with some of these strikeouts too. I wish I remember the exact statistic, but if you've been watching the game, the broadcast has pointed out, I think the Rockies are are number 3 in baseball when it comes to being rung up on pitches that aren't actually strikes. So I do like that the Rockies aren't nibbling too much on some of those pitches, and their patience paid off in this series, in this game, by getting them on base. But the Rockies have been a little unlucky when it comes to the strikeouts as well. Dominated and still outmatched in certain matchups, certainly, and in certain times this season, but it doesn't do the Rockies, a high swing and miss team, a high whiff team. It doesn't do them any favors when they're also mixed in with a team that gets unfairly rung up compared to the rest of baseball. Another guy that I think deserves props from yesterday's game, and I think deserves props for continuing to do what he does, is Elias Diaz. I think Elias Diaz is exactly the type of catcher the Rockies want. I mean, I know he's not. I think there's a case for him to be a top 10 catcher in baseball. And just because he's a guy that you can tell he is such a strong veteran presence on that team, mixed with the fact that he's good. I mean, the Rockies are DHing him in the game yesterday, and he gets 3 RBI with a hit. I mean, including 2, he scored, I think. Yeah, the 2 runs that scored early via sac fly, and I think another sack there for him as well. And then comes up with the at bat that puts them in the lead late, mixed in with the fact that he's got a plus arm behind the dish. Elias Diaz has been awesome for the Colorado Rockies. Elias Diaz has been someone that is very easy to root for. Again, is he top? I think there's an argument to be made for a top 10 in baseball. I mean, I there's catching is a very tough position, but he's batting .309 with 2 home runs. He's driven in 14. He's got a .348 OBP, a slugging of .432, an OPS of .780, and an OPS plus of .109. Again, he's not knocking your socks off, but he's a solid backstop for this Rockies team that we know can play all-star quality ball. And I know that he brings, I know that he's an energy guy. I know that the Rockies benefit from him being in the dugout. I bet the Rockies pitchers really enjoy working with him. He seems like the right type of guy to want to work with. He is that a veteran guy that, yes, when you're watching him, he's going to swing out of his shoes. You know he's going to go up there and he's going to be hacking as hard as he can. But I kind of appreciate that sometimes, not all the time, because it's a little bit like, hey, like let's contain it a little bit more here. Let's just swing the bat. But again, he's a guy that in big moments for the Rockies, when they have needed big hits, when they have needed big offense, Elias Diaz has provided that. Elias Diaz has been a very solid addition to this Rockies team since he joined. There are more effective catchers. Yes, there are ones with more pop time, but in reality, with how difficult it is to get good catching and good catcher play, I will happily take Elias Diaz. I mean, it's again, are there improvements? Are there upgrades? Yes. But in terms of areas and things and in terms of signings that I've actually and people the Rockies have stuck with through these tough times, Elias Diaz has been someone that makes perfect sense for the Colorado Rockies to continue to buy into. Trade deadline and middle of the season and things like that, that's going to change things. It's going to be interesting, but it is good to see Diaz being a leader on this team. I think that this is something that can't be understated. He's had big moments for the Rockies even amidst kind of, stat lines that don't always blow you away. But the Rockies don't win that game without Elias Diaz yesterday. The professional at-bats of driving people in via the sacrifice, and then great extra base hit there late in that ball game to give the Rockies the lead. You got to be confident in that guy going forward. And the Rockies are confident enough that they put him not only in the DH, I mean, they had like every catcher on their roster playing yesterday, which was crazy. But so I wanted to give props to my guy Elias Diaz there as well. Let's see here. In terms of Rockies pitching from yesterday, wasn't the sharpest day there for Dakota Hudson. His issues with kind of getting blown up a little bit continue. 3.1 innings, gives up the 6 earned, walks 4 strikeouts. I mean, again, we talked about how the Rockies take advantage of the walks. Big reason why the Rockies fall behind early in that game. Big reason why the Rockies get punished is 4 walks to 4 strikeouts. It's just, you can't be 1 for 1 there. You got to be cutting down those walk numbers. The good news for Rockies pitching after that, not a single walk given. Rockies only walk 4, and Peter Lambert comes in, doesn't strike anybody out, doesn't do any damage, but it was a little bit of a roller coaster there with Nick Mears coming in, giving up the 2, and Kinley letting up the 1. But Justin Lawrence comes in and no issues, no thrills, just comes in, shuts the door when the Rockies have an opportunity. So not the sharpest day for Rockies pitching, but Rockies pitchers able to navigate it and get backed up by their offense there in a nice series split for the Rockies. Still haven't won a series yet this season, but a series split feels better than a series loss, especially in this one when you had opportunities in a lot of games and a big win here to close things out. All right, let's look ahead here. And I think the Rockies have technically, if you're thinking about it, the Rockies have, I don't know if advantage is the right word, but more familiarity with a high altitude, high energy ballpark like Mexico City versus the Astros. And then let's also talk about the Astros have the same record as the Rockies, and that's crazy. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. FanDuel's got you covered during this, sports, whirlwind, hullabaloo. It doesn't get any bigger when it comes to the sports calendar than right now, when it comes to sheer amount of playoff sports and other sports going on. And it's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. We got baseball in full swing, and FanDuel's got you covered as your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Hey, you can catch all the action of your Colorado Rockies throughout this season on SiriusXM and the SiriusXM app. Just search Colorado Rockies, and you'll be taken to where you need to go. You can even check out the other broadcasts as well if you're ever curious about other radio teams as well. Cassidy Dean says a hot 8th inning is great to secure the late lead, but after falling behind early yet again, it was barely enough to squeeze out a 1-run victory. Fun to watch and great that we tied the series, but we are all still waiting on the big long-term adjustments. Yeah, these games feel great. These games are exciting, and a win is always good. But now it's maintaining it. It's not falling behind. Can the Rockies break the streak of not trailing in a game? They have yet to do that. They have trailed in every single game still in this. So I it's a good reminder, a good thing to be excited about. And TKOP says it is awesome to see Doyle and Tovar right now. I agree. I think those are two guys that are really exciting. And if they put together the consistent stretch, they put together a consistent season, really going to be big for the Rockies there here as we go through the end of the season. All right, I wanted to wind down the show with if there's a team that's prepared for the corsiness of Mexico City, we know how offensive friendly the Mexico City series can be. It's the Rockies. But again, just like we talked about, this is a struggling Astros team, right? But this is an Astros team that has solid pitching. This is the Astros team. This is an Astros team that on paper has the talent. Are the Rockies going to be able to step up and rise to the occasion? Can the Rockies win back-to-back games for the first time since September of last year? These type of storylines the Rockies have to break until we can fully buy into things. Because, yes, we can sit there and say, all right, great, big win yesterday. There's a lot going on. There's things that we liked. It will get washed away if the Rockies lose the next 4. One of the best things about this win yesterday was it was the first time this season the Rockies didn't lose multiple games in a row before getting another win. It was a win. It was a win. It was a loss. It was a win. That helps your record. That helps your performance. The biggest question remains for the Rockies: can they do this consistently? Can they repeat this? Can they do this against other teams? Can they do it on the road? We can't fully buy in to everything that happened in yesterday's game until they do it multiple times. Until they win 4 out of 7 in a week, we can't fully buy into the things. And this series against Houston's a great opportunity here. It's a wacky road game. You have 2 road games where you're not actually going to another environment. You're going to a place that is technically got more Coors Field type feel to it than other places. And you got an opponent that's struggling. And an opponent that's historically the last few years been really good against you. So another moment here, another prove it moment here for the Colorado Rockies going into this weekend where there's going to be extra eyes on these teams. I think, unfortunately, if you're Major League Baseball, you're a little disappointed that one of your international series here is headlined by 2 teams that are 12 games below 500. But it's a moment. It's an opportunity here. It's an opportunity to prove that things are getting better. It's the next 10, right? We talked about Spilly's approach to 10, 10, and 10. It's finishing out that slate of 10 games, and how are you handling this slate of 10 games? How are you handling games 20 through 30? Can you play 500 ball in games 20 through 30? Can you play close to 500 ball in that series of games? I'm shocked, to be totally honest, that the Astros are this bad. I to be totally honest, I haven't followed them enough to know. I'm sure there's probably storylines. It's got to be injuries. It's got to be underwhelming performances, but it's still the Astros. Like I know that things can be bad, but remember the Rockies are 7-19 while setting some historically bad records. As for the Astros, I think they're just underperforming. I don't know if they're left behind. I don't know if major injuries are in the way. But it's shocking. I mean, and that's a hole to have to climb out of for the Astros. I mean, if you go down, that's the thing about this first month of the season. You go down 12 games below 500. I mean, that's a run the Astros have to make to get back above 500. It's kind of crazy to think about, right? I mean, with how much and how frustrating it's been to be a Rockies fan this year. And I know the Astros have had the past, but I mean, this season you have to be sitting there like a ton of bricks just fell on your head. There was always the possibility of the Rockies being bad. I mean, I didn't think, in certain instances, we didn't think this bad in certain times. But the Astros, the constantly in the World Series, in the ALCS Astros, I mean, that's crazy. It really, truly is. And for the Rockies, I mean, you can make things worse. I mean, I can't imagine it would be the feeling would be much worse for Astros fans if the Rockies somehow win this series, pull off the 2-game sweep, and the Rockies move to 9-19, and the Astros fall to 7-21. I mean, that's detrimental. That's crazy, especially with the fact that I think that AL West is going to do a lot of beating up on each other. You saw it in the Mariners-Texas series that just happened. And to be that many games below 500, that's going to be a problem for Houston. But so I think Houston's still the better team in this series. But if there's any team that can go and make it a Coors-like environment, like it certainly can be, like it certainly has elements of, why not be the Rockies? And the Rockies are going out there with, at least Quantrill's going to pitch. I don't know who's going to pitch in the first game there, but with the Rockies being down Kyle Freeland. But it'll be really interesting to see how they handle this. I mean, it's a key moment here. Quantrill is going to get the Saturday start with the day off. That makes sense yesterday. So it'll be Quantrill and then Gomber. It should be in this series for the Rockies there. And they're going up against a good pitcher right away here in Blanco. Ronel Blanco here is 2-0, 1.33 ERA with a whip under 1 at 0.85 in 27 innings pitched, 22 strikeouts to 12 walks, only the 1 home run. So again, the walks have been a factor here for Blanco. Can the Rockies be disciplined at the dish and get on base? We'll see. Rockies head to Mexico here for the weekend. We'll be recapping it on Monday. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Avs and Nuggets in action this weekend as well. Lots of sports fun to be had. Folks, thank you so much for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. For your second listen, go check out Locked On MLB. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage in a massive time for Colorado sports, just check out Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, and Locked On Nuggets, as well as Locked On Buffs. So they got you covered. Folks, go check out the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. And until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.